Welcome back to the Crochet Credits, my friends over at yarnspirations.com. Today we're going to do the Mosaic Stitch Crochet Dishcloth. If you've never done mosaic stitching before, this is a great entry-level project for you to be able to do. It's not a lot of commitment as far as like the project that you can do, and I found myself was that once I got moving on this thing, about halfway through I started really speeding up because I was understanding how the stitch work was working. So I've actually done 3 different samples of this just for fun of it, and they took me just about under 2 hours to be able to make these. And I found with myself is that I have all this Lily and Sugar and Cream here. You can also use the Canadian version of Bernat handicrafted yarn. It is 100% cotton. So what they have here is that the Lily, Sugar and Cream, you can use 2 balls. So one color and another color of something else, and those 2 balls can make a total of 2 dishcloths. You are going to notice that I actually put a border around mine. That's not per the pattern. I just did it for myself. So you'll notice that there is no border. If you would like to do a border, I would grab a 3rd ball of something else or the same color of something and be able to finish it off that way. That's something that you can decide for yourself, but just notice that there is a difference between my version and the one that you see. There is also a crochet diagram available to you on page number 2, and we're gonna be talking a little bit about that today, and then we're gonna follow our steps. The steps are from 1 to 9, so we are 1 to 8. We have to get ourselves started first, and then we're gonna pull together near the end to be able to finish it off, and I'll show you how to do a border as well. So you'll need a 5mm size H crochet hook today with your Lily, Sugar and Cream. You can also use Bernat handicrafted yarn today. So let's begin. We're going to start off with the slip knot. I am going to go through the diagram, but we're just got to get there first, like in detail. So let's begin with the slip knot, and I need you to chain 31. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just come back with me in just a moment when you'll have 31 done. I now have 31 complete. So now you're going to go for row number 1. This is still the setup section. You're going to do 2nd chain from the hook, so count it back. So 1 and 2. Get the back hump of the stitch itself of the chain and just single crochet, and then just do the back hump of the chain going all the way across, and you will have a total count of 30 single crochets by the time you get across. So this is row number 1. I'll see you at the end of this row. So in the diagram what we have here is that we are just finishing up going across the row, just like you see. Now we're gonna go and do rows number 2 and 3. This is part of the setup, so we're still using the same color. So what we have to do is get ourselves established, and if it makes it easier for you, you could write on your sheet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Now I've done this 3 times, as you know, so you can write the number 8 there, and then there's 10 here, and then the rest of it is 8. This whole panel is the actual dishcloth itself. You will notice that this diagram is being used in other blankets and etc. So this is a reduced sample. The sample reduction is actually in the height. It's not actually in the width. So what we want to do is that we want to start off with putting 8 single crochets in a row, chain 2, skip 2, and then 10 in a row, chain 2, skip 2, and then do the last 8. Let's do setup row number 2, and then we'll talk about number 3 really quickly, and we'll come back and then we'll start the repeat from 1 to 8. So when you finished row number 1, you're just gonna turn your work, and let's do setup row number 2. So chain up 1 and include this first one in the count, and we're gonna do 8 single crochets in a row. So we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. Then once you have your 8 done, chain 2, skip the next 2, and then start it again. So you'll do 10 in a row, and then chain 2, skip 2, and then do the last 8. So please do this for setup row number 2, and I'll see you at the end of this. So there's 10 in a row now, chain 2, skip 2, and then do the last 8. I'll see you back here in just a moment. Once you're all the way across, you should have 2 spots that have the holes, and then you're gonna turn your work and then do setup row number 3. So in setup row number 3, you're gonna chain 1, and you're going to apply 1 single crochet into each of the single crochets. If there's a chain 2 space, just add another chain 2 space over top of it, and then just jump to the other side. So you'll stop here, single crochet, chain 2, jump over the chain 2 space, and then begin again. So you don't have to worry about counting at all. You see what I'm saying? So it's just 1 single crochet in each of the single crochets, and if there's a chain 2 space, just match it with putting a chain 2 space over top of it, and I'll be there in a moment here. Okay, so here's the space, chain 2, jump over the space, and start immediately on the crochet on the single crochet on the other side. Please do this all the way, and this is setup row number 3, which is the final, and then we'll start the repeating of this entire project in just a moment. So I'm coming up to the end of row number 3. Using a long strand here, create a slip knot, and the long strand is just the end. And I want to go into the very last stitch that is existing in the row, and I'm gonna go through, pull through, and instead of just single crocheting with the same color on the last pull through on the 2 final, put the new color on, and I want to pull that through. So I'm gonna do a couple things with you, and we're going to go through the pattern now, and this is going to start us with row number 1 through 8. So let's begin to do row number 1, and 1 through 8 is the repeat. You're going to start off and you're gonna put 6 single crochets in a row. I just wrote that number. If you would like to do that, put me on pause and you can see the numbers I wrote. And then what we're going to do is once you get your 6 in, you're going to chain 2, skip these 2, and then do a mosaic double crochet down into this stitch right in front. So leave this in behind, these 2 chain 2 spaces, and just go right in the front and then chain 2 after it. You're then going to skip the first 2 coming out of that and then just do the 6 and then repeat that over. So once you do it once, you get an idea on how we're gonna go. When we do row number 2, all we need to do, just like we did before on setup row number 3, is each single crochet or stitch has a single crochet, and if there's a chain 2, match it. So put a chain 2 over it. So I will say match stitch to stitch, chain for chain upon the return pass. So when we come in the instructions in the future, 1 and 2 belong together, 3 and 4, and you can see that by the coloring as well. Let's begin row number 1 and 2 now. So let's turn our work. So this is where I left you, and we're gonna pick up and we're gonna start. So we're using the new color, chain 1, and we're gonna do the first 6 in a row. So starting in the first one. So we're and when I do that, because the color's just been put on for the first time, I would like you to go right up over top of it. So just put that straggler down on top of the line so that it gets stuck up underneath. Okay, and then we're gonna start. So that's 1 of 6. So going to the next 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and I'm gonna show you what to do with that strand later. So just put it in behind so it's out of your way. So you're skipping the next 2, so chain 2, and then you're gonna come in and put a mosaic double crochet over top of this space here. So see this one down here? That's where you're going. So just a mosaic, just stay in front. Okay, and then do the next one the same way. So these are all belonging together. Then chain 2, and just peel it back if you don't see it. So here's the chain space. So the skipping the first 2 out and then doing the next 6 in a row. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then you're skipping the 2 before that chain 2 space. So if that helps you to see that, so chain 2 to skip those, and then mosaic double crochet down in. So they're always in pairs, the mosaic double crochets, so that gives you an indication of help too. So once that's done, chain 2, skip the first 2 after the space, and then just do the remaining. So there was only 6 when we started this side, so therefore this side has only 6 left after you do all the repeating. Then this is what it looks like. You're going to turn your work, and row number 2 is match stitch to stitch, chain for chain. So just chain 1 and single crochet all the way across, and if there's a chain 1 space or chain 2 space, sorry, just jump it with the chain 2. Keep in mind not to jump over those mosaic double crochets. Those are now included as the stitches. So chain 2 and just go right into that mosaic double, and then chain 2 to jump. See? And do that all the way across. So this is row number 2. I'll meet you back here in just a moment, and we're going to switch off our yarn on the very last stitch to go back to the other color once again. As I'm coming across on row number 2, see where we pushed it back? What I want you to do, this strand, is just single crochet it again. So just fold it so that it goes back in the other direction, and then just crochet over again that line. And I am going to use a tapestry needle to secure that in. So at the very last stitch, what I want you to do is going in, pulling it through, and then let that color fall, and then grab the other color right from the ball and pull up and use it as the final pull through. like that. So I'm going to show you how to weave in the ends, and I'm just gonna lay it down, and we'll get rid of those extra 2 strands that are here and in our way at the moment, and then they'll be out of our way for the future. To fasten off the yarn, I'm only gonna show it one time, is that I would put it on a tapestry needle. Just takes a few seconds, and then just put it through the same color. So any loose ends that you have, so you have the beginning loose end here, you'll want to do the same thing. So I've already kind of crocheted over this twice, but I want to go back and forth 3 times. Because this is a dishcloth, you don't want to be cheap on the idea of not weaving in your ends enough. So that's back and forth 3 times. I'm gonna do the same with the beginning one, and then we'll trim those yarns, and so the only yarns coming out of your project now will be the ones going directly to the yarn ball. So please hide in your yarn ends now, and I will see you, and we'll kick off then row number 3 and 4. So row number 3 and 4 is now using the green color in my case. So we're going to do the first 4, chain 2, skipping these 2 here, and then you're going to put a mosaic double crochet straight on down. You are going to put a single crochet into these 2, and then a mosaic down, and then chain 2 to go after it, and then put these 2 in a row. What I want you to keep in mind is that it's going to be building up like a V, so it's actually really easy to be able to tell with this in the future. So you won't have to look at these instructions so hard in the future. So just remember that you got to chain 2, mosaic down, and then next time you do the mosaic you have 1 after it. So that's considered 1 section. If you look at another section, again it's a mosaic, chain 2, skipping the 2, and then mosaic down, and then you have your middle section and the mosaic down, and then chain 2 after. Just think about each section as looking like a mirror, and then I think it may be easier for you. Let's begin 3 and 4. Remember on the return pass number 4 it's matching stitch to stitch, chain to chain. So let's go on to 3 and 4. Just chain up 1 with this new color, and you're going to do the first 4 in a row. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then we're going to chain 2, skip the next 2 single crochets, and then you have the space that's next. So you're gonna mosaic down into the same color below. This is what's helping it to block the color, and then single crochet in the next 2, and let's do the other side of the mirror. So if this is one side of the mirror, we're going to mosaic down, so just drop on down, and we'll do 2 in a row. And the mirror, if it's a true mirror, see this chain 2 space, we have to have it on this side as well, and then skipping the first 2 out after the space. If you don't see the space, just peel it back. So we're just going to single crochet here, and we're going to put only 2 in a row, and then begin that all over again. So chain 2, skip the next 2, and mosaic down, single crochet the next 2, so this is the middle of the mirror, okay, and then mosaic down, so you can see where the spaces are to be able to tell where that is. Chain 2 after it, okay, and then just do the last 4. So if you remember there was 4 that kicked off, that means that we have to finish with the final 4 on this side. When you do the return pass on row number 4, which is just a moment from now, you turn your work and match stitch to stitch, chain for chain. Just peel it back if you don't see it, and that's easy. So just chain up 1 and match stitch to stitch, chain for row number 4, and meet me back here in just a moment. When you get to the end of number 4, make sure you drop that yarn, grab the other yarn that's just holding, and then finish it. Make sure it's taut coming up the side, not too loose, and then turn your work, and we're gonna do 5 and 6 next. So row 5 and 6, you're gonna start off and you only do 2 in the first, then chain 2, and then drop down. So it's just like this. We're just starting sooner. Instead of 4, it's only 2 in a row. You'll do that. Then there's 6 in a row, and then drop down, chain 2. There's nothing to attach to in between these things, so chain 2 and then drop down. So just keep that in mind when you're doing that with the mirror kind of concept. And we're gonna do this all the way across, and then on row number 6 match stitch to stitch, chain for chain. Let's do 5 and 6 now. So let's start off with 5 and just chain up 1, and we're only doing 2 in a row. So 1 and 2, and then chain 2, and then just skip those 2 singles and then drop on down. after you get that done, starting in the very next stitch just after the space, pull it back if you don't see it, you're gonna do the next 6 in a row. So count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And as you get used to this pattern, you may not have to count it because you run right into the space. So you're going to come down and you'll do the 2 in a row. This is the mosaics. And this is halfway through, so pretend it's a mirror. So chain 2 to skip these 2 and then just come right down into the next one after it. So that's the only one that's kind of like just hanging out on its own on a limb, but it will be secured in the next one. So once you get that done, how many in a row do you need to do? It's 6. So starting in the one after the space, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And do you see you ran right into a space? So you probably don't need to count that if you're confident. So do your 2 drop downs and then you have to chain 2 after it, and then skip the next 2 out and then just do the last 2. In the beginning of this row we only did 2 in a row, so there's only 2 on this side. So turning to do number 6, just chain up 1 and just match stitch to stitch, chain for chain, and I'll see you at the end of number 6. And I'm gonna make sure you change the color. I'll have that done already and I'll be back here and we'll do 7 and 8, which is the final of the repeat. So row 7 and 8 is the final of the repeat. So we're gonna kick off and we're gonna just put the first 2 in a row. We're going to drop down where that chain 2 space is, and then there's 4 and then chain 2, skip 2 and then 4. So remember that these are all in sets of 4, if you can remember that. Okay, so we'll be doing that all the way across, and so there'll be 4 and then you'll drop down 4, chain 2, skip 2 and etc. We'll be doing that all the way across, and then you'll come back and it'll look very similar. This number 8 is very similar to the way that this looked down here, because number 9, if you really look at it, is the same instruction as row number 1. So let's finish rows number 7 and 8. Let's begin row number 7. So chain up 1 and do 1 single crochet. So you'll notice that when we've been doing the drop downs, we've always been putting a chain 2 space in front of it. This time we're not doing that. So we just put the first 2 and we're gonna drop. So we're going to be shifting exactly where the chain 2 space is completely to kind of reset for the next repeat that will happen in the future. So once those 2 are dropped down, starting in the one right after the space, you'll put 4 in a row. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then chain 2 and skip 2. This here, see how it's coming straight up? It should look like it's going straight up from there. So that gives you an indication that you're right. So after you chain 2, you skip 2, do another 4. So 1, 2, 3 and 4, and you have a space, so you're gonna have to drop down. And then how many stitches after this to do in a row? It's 4. So we keep doing 4. So 1, 2, 3 and 4. Chain 2, skip 2, and you see if you follow it straight up, it's in line. And then do the 4 after that. You skip those 2. And then drop on down because you have a space that's next. And then you'll finish the final 2. Okay, and that's what it looks like. So then turn your work and match stitch to stitch, chain for chain. You already know what you're doing at this point, and then we'll just talk about the repeat, and then we'll come back and we'll finish it off as if you're finishing the dishcloth. So we'll talk about that as well and show you, and I'll do a border too. Let's do this next. So this is the end of rows number 1 through 8. And now you have to continue to repeat this particular section over and over, so 1 through 8. So let me just pull you up one that we already have done. So you're going to notice when you really look at it the difference. Okay, so just kind of really eye it up and you notice what is missing. See this here? So when you start, see this? This is going to match on top, so which will give you that peaking idea. So as you begin to repeat this over and over, you'll see that happening. So you're going to repeat rows number 1 through 8 3 more times, and you'll eventually happen to get up here. to right onto this line. Do you see how this line looks? And you'll have this green, as you see in the green here, done. So what's gonna happen is that once you have the repeat of 1 through 8 that many times done, we need to do the final few rows in order to have it so that you don't end up with these spaces right on the edge of your dishcloth. So what I need you to do now is repeat 1 through 8 3 more times. Look at the sample and you will see, and when you get there you'll be at this point there, and then we're going to finish off the final few rows that are in the instructions. So please do 1 through 8 3 more times now, and I'll see you back here and we'll show you how to finish this off. So here's the next row is if you were going to finish it off. So you'll do this. Now when it was laying down you'll notice that there was green on my hook. I had to change it over, don't forget. And so the next 2 rows are the final color. So this side we start off with green as being the edge, but on the edge side, on this side, you'll finish off with the opposite color. So you're going to just chain up 1, and you're just gonna single crochet in each single crochet that's going across. And remember, this is the final rows when you're finished. So we don't want to create any more additional spaces because we want to finish this off. So when we get to the space we immediately drop down, and so we're not worrying about adding any more chain 2 spaces, and then starting in the stitch after the space and behind just continue to single crochet. So you're gonna go all the way across, filling in the spots but not adding any more chain 2 spaces, and this is the first row of the finishing of your dishcloth. When you get to the end of the row you're just single crocheting the last stitch and then turn. You'll do your last row now, and you are just going to just chain up 1 and do 1 single crochet as a straight shot all the way across. There's no chain 2 spaces to worry about, and when we come back then I'm going to show you how to do a border that is not in the pattern, and so you will need a little bit of extra yarn in order to complete a border if you are physically trying to get 2 dishcloths out of the 2 balls of yarn that is promised in the pattern. I'll see you back here in just a moment. We'll start the border. So just finish the row. So technically this is the technical end of the pattern, and so you'll want to weave in your loose ends that you have left over, and this is what it looks like. So you will have a carrying piece of yarn. So I'm gonna show you a border next, and in the border what I want to do is I want to cover over those so that they're completely hidden in behind the project. So I just left on the same color yarn as well, and I went all the way around. So chain 1, and then on the edge pieces, on the edge stitches, just put in 3 single crochets into each, and that will allow you to turn the corner. And then you're just gonna work your way up and down down the sides just in with 1 single crochet equally spaced, and I'll show you how that's done. So just zoom in through the top, and on the last stitch of this row then you're going to put in 3 single crochets, and then I'll show you how to go down an edge, and then I'll show you how to cover in the other carrying yarn as well. So in the last stitch you're going to place in 3 single crochets, so that will allow you to turn the corner. And just remember that in single crochet each row kind of equals a single crochet. So just starting in the next row down, and just so you have the green, so there's gonna be 1 in the first part of the green and then 1 into the second part of the green, so row 1 and 2 of the green. So you're gonna do that all the way down the edge, just going around those stitches. Nice and easy, single crochet, it's awesome. And then on the last stitch here, which is the first part of this row, so you're just gonna put in 3 single crochets to turn, and then work down the edge, the bottom edge, and I'll see you at the next side where I'll show you how to cover in over top of those strands. So I'm coming around and I'm doing the last one here, so you'll have to put your 3 single crochets to turn. Okay, so let's go up the edge that has the carrying yarn. So the carrying yarn doesn't start right away, if you recall, so just working your way equally spacing up. Now when you go in here, see how the green is carried? Just go in and scoop it so that carrying yarn is inside the stitch. Okay, so then you're gonna do the orange. So make sure that is in the inside, and then see what I'm doing? I'm just scooping into the stitch work, but I'm making sure those carry yarns also go with the stitch itself. It's a great way to hide this yarn instead of having to fasten off every time. And this green, I'm going to have to fasten this in, so I'm going to have to use a tapestry needle to do that. and that's it. So you're just going to join it to the first one with the slip stitch like that, and then just cut your yarn and then use your tapestry hook or tapestry needle to weave it in and out, and do that with any of the loose ends that you have, and this project would be then complete. It's a really awesome project to do. It's a great entry level for this, as I promised, and this is neat. And now I have a little mini scrubber for my kitchen, so you can go as big as you want to go. I'm thinking table runner too, because you know I have no life. That's it for today. Have a good one. We hope to see you again real soon. Bye bye.